जय जगन्नाथ शुभ संध्या समस्त को नमस्कार नीलाद्रु शंख मध्ये शतदल कमले रत्न सिंहासनस्थं सर्वालंकार युक्तं नवघन रुचिरं संयुक्तं व्याघ्रजेन भद्राय वाम भागे रथचरणयुतं ब्रह्मरुद्रेन्द्र वन्द्यं वेदनं सारमेशं सुजन परिवृतं ब्रह्मदारु स्मरामि परम कारुणिक अनंत कोटि ब्रह्मांडर मौडमणि कोटि कोटि ओडियांकर हृदयर आराध्य देवता समग्र विश्व चराचर षष्ठ आनंद कंद परमानंद सचिदानंद अखिल रसघन विग्रह विश्व वेदनार वैद्य श्री श्री जगन्नाथंकर चरण कमल रे ए अकिंचन कोटि कोटि दंडवत I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of our spiritual Guru Lord Sri Jagannath. I, DR.NAMITA PATTANAIK, being the host and convener of this webinar and as the Assistant State Commissioner Guide, I welcome all the participants to this virtual meeting, 174 national webinar, and you know it is an initiative to inculcate knowledge about our earth, our science, our world. So it's really a very, very interesting program today, as all of you know, the title being Aditya L1. And we are very much excited to know about this. And Ajira Jugo, Aji Samaste Ame Janiche, today's specialty is a mission to understand science mystery. ତେଣୁ ଏଇ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକ୍ରମରେ ଆଜି ଆପଣ ମାନେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଯୋଗ ଦେଇଥିବାରୁ ମୁଁ ପ୍ରଥମେ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମହର୍ଷି ମହାବିଦ୍ୟାଳୟର ରୋଭର ରେଞ୍ଜର ଆନୁକୂଲ୍ୟରେ ଅନୁଷ୍ଠିତ वेबिनार टीम तरफରୁ महर्षि कॉलेज तरफରୁ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ପୁଣି ଥରେ ସ୍ୱାଗତ କରୁଛି এই କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକ୍ରମ को आजिर समीक्षक आजिर मुख्य वक्ता एवं आजिर मुख्य अतिथि कहले अतिथि हबो नहीं से होचंती डॉक्टर शुभंकर वेदांत प्रोफेसर इन फिजिक्स एवं चीफ कोऑर्डिनेटर ऑफ सेंटर फॉर इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी साइंस नाइजर भुवनेश्वर आम समस्त जानी राष्ट्रीय विज्ञान शिक्षा एवं अनुसंधान संस्था भुवनेश्वर जटणी ठारे अवस्थित एवं एठारे जो ब्रिलियंट स्कॉलर माने अछंती आज से मानक भितरु जणे को आज आमे पाइचे ताकर बहुमूल्य समय दे आज हम कारण रे आसीचंती तेनु प्रथमे मु तांको स्वागत करिवि ए वर्चुअल मोड माध्यम रे
नमस्कार मैडम स्टार्ट करिवे की
ना नहीं सर
अच्छा अच्छा
Now, I welcome all our dignitaries to the Google board. Respected Principal Madam, Madam MANJU PATTANAIK ji, esteemed Chief Patron, DR.K Mr. Sir, the State Chief Commissioner and National Vice President, Bharat Scouts and Guides, India, Reverend Dr. Subhankar Bedanta, Professor in Physics and Chief Coordinator, for Center for Interdisciplinary Science in NISER, JR.NAMITA, ODISHA, and respected Dr. Shujya, our science teacher from Puri, Mr. Jyoti PRAKASH MAHARANA, and my dear students, DIBYANSHU PADHI from Jharsuguda and Ipshita Mahanti from Maharishi College, and all our dear friends and my respected teacher, Professor Rekha Das, the ex-director, secretary of OBA, and all my friends. Today also we are having the one of the greatest day, that is called World First Aid Day, and the second Saturday of September we observe the World First Aid Day, and for this also we'll have one program on the next Sunday or Saturday. So now it's time to inaugurate our webinar virtually on this auspicious day. I request Dr. K.P. Mishra sir, the chief patron of this webinar, to inaugurate the webinar, sir. 174 National Webinar. Please watch. Our State Chief Commissioner is inaugurating the program, and in presence of Professor Dr. Subhankar Bedanta, the NISER professor and scientist. We are very much happy to get you, sir. Thank you. आमे समस्ते जानिछे आजिर जुग विज्ञानर जुग। एही जुगरे भारत आज नुआ इतिहास रचिछि सारा विश्व रे। तेबे ए जो आमे कहूचे जे विश्व रे गोटे नुआ सृष्टि करछि कोन से जो जिंस जहा कि आज प्रमाण कर देछि निजर वैज्ञानिक ज्ञान कौशल को सारा भारत रे सारा विश्व रे। चंद्रयान 3 चंद्र रे प्रतिदिन निजर करिश्मा देखौतला बेले इसरो रो वैज्ञानिक माने जारी रखिछन्ति से मानकर अनुसंधान कार्यक्रम अहरह कार्यरत भारत रो वैज्ञानिक माने पुनर्बार एक इतिहास सृष्टि कले महाकाश विज्ञान क्षेत्र रे मिशन आदित्य L1 भारत रो प्रथम सूर्य अभियान। तेबे दिन 11:50 सेप्टेम्बर 2 तारिख 2023 मसिया आंध्र प्रदेश श्रीहरिकोटा थारे थिबा सतीश धवन स्पेस सेंटर रु जेते बेले छड़ा गला उत्क्षेपण करा गला 2 नंबर लॉन्च पैड रे, एंड द वर्क हॉर्स वाज PSLV C57 ए रॉकेट अकस्मार को उत्क्षेपण कला आदित्य L1। से दिन और कथा आज यदि मन पड़ी जाउची समस्तक मन रे समस्त हृदय रे समस्तकर देह रे गोटे कंपन सृष्टि जाउची। धार्य स्थान रे पहुंचबा में लागिबो 127 दिन। या पृथ्वी ठार 15 लाख किलोमीटर दूर रे ए स्थान रो नाम होउची जोठी लाग्रेंजियन पॉइंट L1 अछि। सेठी की कार्यक्रम चलीची से विषय तो हमको सार कहबे, किंतु आसंता 2024 जनवरी प्रथम सप्ताह को अपेक्षा सूर्य उपरे गवेषणा करथिबो ए आदित्य L1 आ प्रथम भारतीय स्पेस ऑब्जर्वेटरी पठेइथिबार इसरो आज उत्साहित। आमे माने बहुत गर्वित। L1 रे लागिथिबा जो 7टी पेरोल यंत्र 4टी यंत्र केनते सीधा सड़क भाबरे सूर्य आड़ को मुहाइची एवं ए 4टी यंत्र तार जो 3टा स्तर रहिची फोटोस्फियर क्रोमोस्फियर बा कोरोना संपर्क रे विभिन्न संपर्क सब संवाद संग्रह करिवो एवं एही आदित्य L1 जोटा कि सोलर सिस्टम रो ऊपर गवेषणा करिवो। तबे पृथ्वी रो जीवन धारण क्षमता पछरे केते सकल शक्तिर आधार आमे कहूचे, तेले सूर्यंकर अवदान कोन आज गवेषणा करिवो से आदित्य L1। 1.5 टन ओजन रो एही महाकाश यान जते बेले सूर्य निकट को जाउची सेथिथिरे लागिथिबा जो सब उपकरण आज हमको गर्व लागुची। हाइट रेजिस्टेंस उक्त चाप शक्तिधारी जो काच क्वार्ट्ज बैंकोनेल गढ़ा हेची ई सबुति पई जदिबा 400 कोटी खर्च हेची, किंतु बेसी खुशी लागुची एई यंत्र रे ओडिसा रे हमर भुवनेश्वर रु सेंट्रल टूल रूम एंड ट्रेनिंग सेंटर रो अवदान किछि कम नुही। आज से मानको मध्य हमर ए वेबिनार माध्यम रे निश्चित भाव रे धन्यवाद जणैबी एवं भारत रो सूर्य यात्रा आरंभ हो जाइछि एवं आसंतु शुणिबा ए विषय रे सविशेष विवरणी डॉक्टर शुभंकर बेदांक ठारू। ता पूर्वरु अनुरोध करिबी आम भितरे थिबा इप्सिता महांती को पाठ करिवे वेदपाठ एवं दिव्यांशु पाढ़ी तांको श्लोक तापर आरंभ करिया। फर्स्ट आई विल रिक्वेस्ट दिव्यांशु पाढ़ी। the small boy of 9 years old, very interested for science. May I request Dibyanshu, please? Dibyanshu Padhi, are you there? Dibyanshu Padhi, beta hai kya? And Ipsita? Ipsita? Okay. So, we'll first listen to Professor Bedanta, and afterwards, when they will come in between also, we can have the sloka and Veda part, because it is for the betterment of the ISRO scientists and all those well-wishers. If they blessed, then we will succeed in our mission. So, thanks to all of you. Now I request Professor Bedant, Subhankar Bedant ji. Now the floor is with you, sir. Yes, sir. Subhankar, sir.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. It's clear.
All right. Okay. So, namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Patnaik, for this very kind invitation. ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ବହୁତ ନୋଭେଲ କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ମୁଁ ଆଶା କରୁଛି ଏଥିରେ ଅଡିଏନ୍ସ ଆମର ଯାହା ଅଛନ୍ତି ପ୍ରାୟ ସମସ୍ତେ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ନା କି ନନ୍ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଅଛନ୍ତି କି? Are there any non-Odia friends?
Few friends, Jaybir Singh, Dr. Jadon, Jaybir Singh,
Okay.
and some people, and they well understood Odia and Hindi, all the languages.
Okay.
They can.
Okay, then I will stick to English.
So, are you going to start now?
Yes, if you want.
Okay. So 1 minute, I'd like to inform all my friends, those join over this virtual mode. Professor Bedant, you know, he's professor in physics, but he was in charge of the entire, the chief coordinator for the Center of Interdisciplinary Sciences in Niger. And one more thing, Niger is famous for having some laboratories. So, laboratory for nanomagnetism and magnetic materials. This is the main working field for Professor Bedant. And he is the editor in Journal of Magnetism and Magnetic Materials and associate editor in Journal of Superconductivity and Novel Magnetism and associate editor in Frontiers in Physics and associate editor in Frontier in Nanotechnology. So, besides that, he has got tremendous activities in scientific way and in science research and documentation. So prior to that, I must introduce, and this is a very short profile of Dr. Bedant. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for this kind introduction and for this very kind invitation. So good evening all. It's a pleasure to talk about our recent venture which have made India really significantly visible in the world map of space science and space tourism. I think India is doing excellent now in terms of science and technology, and these missions such as Chandrayaan or Aditya L1 just shows that what we are looking at and what we can do and what we will do. So this is just the beginning of a new era, and first of all, I like to thank all those visionaries post-independence who have started, focusing on science and technology, space science, such as Homi Bhabha, Dr. Dhawan, then Vikram Sarabhai, Abdul Kalam, and so many people, actually Raman, and so many people who have contributed directly or indirectly to this kind of activities. So I have been told that a week ago or so you have heard the lecture about Chandrayaan. So I'm actually not talking about that today. I would rather focus on the very recent mission, that is Aditya L1. And today we call it's a mission to understand sun's mystery, because sun is one of the biggest mystery in our solar system, in the universe. And if we can understand sun, then probably we can also understand other stars. And if we understand other stars, we can also understand their surrounding, their atmosphere, their solar systems. And this will help us to understand more and more about the space or the universe. And this is directly or indirectly beneficial for our society. And I will discuss these things when we proceed. Madam, am I audible properly? Hello.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, thank you. Some of you may know about NISER, some of you may not. So I just have a quick picture of the campus. It's a beautiful campus situated about 25 kilometers south of Bhubaneswar towards Chilika Lake. It's very close to the Jatni town, and it's about 3 kilometers from the Khordha railway station. It's a beautiful campus situated on about 300 acres of land. And you can see these are the academic complex. We have the administrative building where the director sits here. Then this is the School of Chemistry, School of Biology. Here we have the library and lecture hall complex. Inside also we have the Center for Interdisciplinary Science, which we started about 10 years ago. And we have the School of Earth and Planetary Science also here. Then this is School of Physics. My office is precisely here, if you can see the arrow. This is School of Mathematics. We also have School of Mathematics and School of Computer Science. And we have also School of Humanities and Social Science. This is a magnificent auditorium, which can house about 750 people. It's a fully residential campus with really nice hostels and accommodations for staff and faculty. And as you may know that in few years down the line, we will have the Tata Memorial Cancer Center and also the medical cyclotron, which will be really a big help for the state of Odisha and nearby states as well. Just to motivate some young students about our programs at NISER, so we offer the Integrated Master's Program, which is a 5-year course. After 12th, or basically after your school, you can join the NISER for this Integrated Master's Program. And the procedure is you have to appear through the National Entrance Screening Test, or we call it NEST. It's a national test which is just conducted by NISER. And if you get selected, then you can do a master's in biology, chemistry, physics, or mathematics. The computer science and earth planetary science, so far they have not started the major program in that, but soon we will also have majors in that. Then we have regular PhD programs where, integrated PhD, first of all, where we, so where people or students come after their bachelor to do a master's plus PhD. Because usually PhD, which is written here, it is after MSc in biology, chemistry, physics, or any other subject. But you can do integrated PhD where you will do master's as well as PhD. The beauty of this course is usually master's is 2 years and PhD is 5 years, so it's 7 years. But if you come for integrated PhD, then you can hopefully finish within 6 years. That's the tentative plan. So you save 1 year of your time. Plus, when you join integrated PhD, you also get a very reasonable amount of stipend, about 20 to 30,000 rupees. Okay, so this is not very standard when you do a regular master's program in any university. And we have regular PhD program which you can join through GetNet Just. Okay, these are the schools I just mentioned with the photo. Then why NISER? Because really our teaching courses are at par to all other great or big universities or institutions, not only in India but across the world. Because in the beginning, really senior professors from India and outside India were involved in making the course structure. We have state-of-the-art teaching laboratories, and I can really vouch. If you have a chance, you come to NISER, you can see our teaching laboratories are really, really excellent. We have world-class research laboratories, which is as good as any big university laboratory in US or Europe or Japan. And our faculty members are very experienced, and they have done PhD postdoc at really eminent places. And we have a very strong, vibrant teaching as well as research programs. So that was all about NISER, and if you have any questions regarding NISER, you can ask me later, or you can go to the website of NISER. Now, this Aditya L1 mission is all about studying sun. And the question is why we want to study sun, because it's for a layman, one can think sun is somewhere, it is giving us heat, light, energy, so we are good. Why to study it? So we must, I think somebody's microphone is on. Could you kindly mute it? Thank you. Yeah. Somebody's microphone is on, so still please mute. Thanks. Okay. So actually, I have to tell you, students or friends, that usually in a PPT, a long sentence says too much text is not good. But I thought maybe there are very young students, so for them just speaking or hearing, following may be a bit difficult. So I have actually put a lot of text, a lot of sentences. I will go through it, but I just want to tell, when you make a PPT, don't put many sentences. This is kind of a rule of thumb. But for today, we will be happy. We'll live with this kind of long sentences because they are important and there are very young students. So as I wrote, the sun is the closest star. The sun is a star and it has its own solar system, and it is made of super hot ionized gas that we call as plasma. Okay, and that plasma is basically making, that hot ionized gas. They are making this so-called fusion process, and because of which we get tremendous amount of energy out of sun. Now, as you know that inside sun, the temperature can be as high as about a couple of billion degrees centigrade. Million means in Indian standard we say 10 lakhs. So the room temperature, it's about 25 degrees. So today is a bit hot, so I have put my AC on because it's now maybe 35 or 32 degrees centigrade. Just imagine if it is 100 degree, water boils. If it is 1000 degrees, then metal starts to boil or melt. And now we are not talking about 1000, we are talking about lakhs and 10 lakhs and like crores. Okay, so crores degrees centigrade, it's immensely hot. That we must know. But obviously, when you go in the outer sphere of sun, the temperature reduces. And surprisingly, a little bit away from the sun, there is a layer called corona, which I will have a picture later on. In principle, that should be cooler, but that is again hotter than the surface of sun. So there are actually many mysteries in the sun, which we must actually understand, and that is what the humankind is interested in understanding such phenomena. And obviously Aditya L1 hopefully will bring answers to some of the questions, and may not be all questions, but some of the questions will. Now, one thing we must realize, that sun's surface and atmosphere change constantly. It's not a fixed thing like in earth, where you are standing, it's a soil, it's more or less there. There is also some internal change in earth. That's the reason we have earthquakes and other environmental issues, but usually the earth's surface does not change that frequently. However, the sun's surface and atmosphere change very, very frequently, and that means that also changes the magnetic force or the forces which are being generated by this churning plasma. Churning plasma is like like if you open the water tap and the tap goes out, fills in the water sink, and slowly water goes inside, and you see there is a churning, like chakra. So that churning plasma actually creates a lot of magnetic field or forces, and that also changes in the sun's surface and atmosphere. And when we say sun's atmosphere, we are living in sun's atmosphere, so we are also getting affected by that magnetic field. Okay, Earth has a very small magnetic field, but it has. And if you have more magnetic field coming from sun, it will somehow directly or indirectly affect with the electronic items, spacecraft, satellites, and also electric grids in the planet, maybe mobile towers and so on. So that's the reason that we must try to understand how things happen in sun. Now, sun releases energy because we are getting hot. I mean, I'm complaining about being a bit hot, but if sun stops giving us energy or light, then the life will not survive in planet. We will all die. I mean, the life will be extinct, and that cannot be survived. And sun releases this energy in mostly two ways. One can say it's a good way, and another can be like little bit bad way. The good way is what we are getting from sun, constant flow of light, which illuminates Earth and also other planets, other moons, and so on. The bad part that because of this very dynamic process involved in the sun, so there are dramatic bursts of light particles that can also emerge from the sun. These are called sometimes, coronal mass ejection, CME, or even solar winds. So these things can just come out. Let's say if you burn some fire, bonfire, if you do outside, maybe during winter you do, and sometime suddenly lot of fire particles, they come out. Yeah, so they're like bursts. Okay, so these kind of bursts also happens from sun, and that creates its magnetic field, and it contains huge number of ionized particles, which will affect the solar system really directly. Strong, less, it all depends. Now, sun's influence on Earth's habitability. Habitability, that means how do we live on sun. That also depends on both the factors, the good way and the bad way. Thankfully, the good way is happening in a good way. The bad ways are very unpredictable, and somehow we must try to understand this dynamic process. So when we try to understand this, the outer environment of sun, so that's, you can say, space weather, because the weather we mostly forecast nowadays. We have very good satellites which can tell that a cyclone is coming, or rain will happen, or whatsoever they predict about environmental weather around us. Similarly, if you talk about space, so we must also understand the space weather for these reasons which I just mentioned a second ago. Now, the question is, with all this, if we can understand more and more about sun, which is the closest star to us, then we can also probably extend this understanding for other stars. They may not hold in all the manner, but to a large extent, and that way it will be helpful to also understand our universe. Because, as I said, sun is the closest star. You can say it's the nearest laboratory for you to research on stars. Okay, so that's the reason sun is very much important. And here there is a quick overview of the different atmosphere of sun, and you see there is a core, of course, which is about 200 kilometers. If you look, the sun's diameter is about 1.4 million kilometers, like 14 lakh kilometers, whereas Earth's diameter is only 12,000 kilometers. So Earth is like a very, very small object compared to the total volume of the sun. And if you look, the sun core is about 200,000 kilometers. Then we have an outer zone which is called radiative zone, and that is 300,000 kilometers, and so on. Then this photosphere is quite important because it actually produces a lot of wavelengths. Then chromosphere, which is also about 1,500 kilometers. These are thin, like you can say coatings around the sun. They have incredible amount of temperature, but usually the temperature is the maximum at the center, and when you go towards the edge, then the temperature decreases. And then comes this corona, which is really a mystery. It is, it's like a threaded circle around it. It is quite far from the sun surface. It is not on the surface. I think at the sun surface, the temperature is about 5,000 degrees centigrade. Very, very hot. Yeah, we cannot survive there. Nothing can survive. Everything will melt. But if you go away from the surface, you expect the temperature to go down. However, if you go to corona, it is again in lakhs of degrees centigrade. That means there is a real mystery that how so far from sun surface, but temperature is very high. And this corona makes this coronal ejection of particles, that's called CME. It's really ejects a lot of masses and particles that can change the magnetic field and the atmospheric conditions. So we must understand it. Now, I have already told you that why studying the sun is very, very important, because every planet, including Earth and the other planets, they belong to some solar system, and they have been governed by their parent star. For us, So sun is the parent star. The sun is the deciding factor if we should live or we should not live. Okay. Now, if we understand sun, that's a good thing because we can understand how our star is controlling us. Similarly, you can also try to understand other solar systems in the Milky Way, and that will be helpful to understand the universe. Okay. Then the solar weather and the environment, which I'm mentioning these things, I'm repeating sometimes because these are actually important factors. These are not standard things which you learn every day in your news channel or in newspapers and so on. We always hear about weather, but we never hear about space weather. Now we are talking about space weather. Why it is so important? Okay, this is the point. Now we are actually getting information about our weather due to the satellites. India has many satellites. Every country has their own satellites. Some satellites are giving information about weather conditions. Some satellites are giving information about like other security features. Some satellites are being used for telecommunication, mobile phone, and all that. You see, previously when satellite technology was not very cheap or popular, telephone was not there. But now we have mobile phones because of the satellites' presence. Okay, so the point is these satellites are in Earth's atmosphere or sometime close to space. Now, if these particles from sun comes and they change the magnetic field, they somehow affect directly or indirectly the satellites, then our life is really affected by this. So if you somehow can understand these events happening in sun, like when the solar wind will come, when this coronal mass ejection will happen, or other features, and we can somehow predict, because statistically if you take the processes, you can predict when these things will happen, like these weather conditions. In Odisha we are very much prone to cyclones, and nowadays the Indian Meteorological Department, MD, is very particular and very precise in pinpointing where the cyclone will hit. Last time, I think when Pony came in 2018 or so, they really pointed a place in Puri, and I think the cyclone hit about 100 meters. That much precise now we can make, because we have these highly developed satellites in space for us. Now, if your satellites will be affected by the solar wind, then you lose information about it. That's the reason knowledge of the solar events is very important. Knowledge about the space weather is very important to know and to sustain our other things. Okay. Now, what is this coronal mass ejection? People call it CME. Okay. This is very important event. This is not very standard what you learn in textbooks, at least in school or college, unless you do research in astronomy. So basically, CMEs are large expulsions of plasma and magnetic field from the sun's corona. So, as I said, the energy or the heat or the light is being created because of this plasma, this fusion process, and which creates the plasma in the sun. Now, from time to time, we don't know why, but sun ejects a chunk of this plasma out of sun. Now, this plasma or high energetic particles, they will go around, okay, around the sun. They will spread everywhere. Okay? It's like if you take a bed sheet and it is, let's say, having a lot of dust, you just make bed sheet jhadi jabo jodi. So what happens? A lot of dust particles will come out. They will suddenly go in your nose. But you see, after some time, they are going everywhere in the room. Okay, so you don't see it, but they are spreading. So similarly, these coronal mass ejection, these high energetic particles, when they get ejected, they will spread in the solar system. So they will go to other planets, they will come to Earth, they will go even beyond Earth, and so on. Okay, they can in principle reach also Pluto and beyond Pluto. Sometimes it has been found that they can go much beyond the Pluto, which is the last planet. So this is very important, and they can eject billions of tons of coronal material. Look, ton mean already several 100 kilograms or 1,000 kilograms, and billion is 100 crores. So you can imagine 100 crores of tons of materials they can eject. So it is not just a little bit, it is huge. And these huge amount of particles, they will spread in the solar system, of course, in all directions. But Earth is, at that point of time, Earth is somewhere in the solar system, and we will also get it. So it's very, very important to know, like, the time when the CMEs happen, because CMEs travel outward from the sun. The speed, it can vary between 250 kilometers per second to as fast as 3000 kilometers per second. So just imagine 250 kilometers per second means it will take only 2 seconds from Bhubaneswar to Kolkata, you can say. The CMEs can travel that fast, or it can even go to 3000 kilometers per second. So that means from here to Delhi, it will take like half second. Okay, so they move so fast. Now, even with all this, because Earth is still very, very far from sun, so it can take about 15 to 18 hours to reach our planet or our Earth. So if we can somehow, sometime even the CMEs can take several days to arrive. So somehow if we can predict, like our weather, like rain is going to happen. Okay, so you know that you can carry an umbrella to school, or we can carry an umbrella to our office, so that we can be protected from them. Similarly, if we can somehow predict that CME is happening and it will reach the Earth, we can take necessary precautions. The astronauts can take necessary precautions. We can do necessary arrangements for our spacecrafts, so that we are protected against all these CMEs. You please need to understand the CMEs are not something good for us. Now, they expand in size as they propagate away from the sun, and larger CMEs can reach a size comprising nearly a quarter of the space between Earth and sun by the time it reaches our planet. So you see, the solar system is huge. Sun is already very big. Earth is also big, but compared to sun, it is much smaller. But there is a lot of empty spaces in our solar system. The point is, by the time this CME, let's say once it is ejected from sun, it reaches Earth. By that time, almost quarter of the, like 1/4 of the whole solar system is almost filled with this CME. So these are quite significant events, and we must try to understand. Now, there are some theories, and there are a little bit of understanding. It's not like CMEs are completely a mystery. We know that they happen, and they have been observed also. They have been imaged by some really observatory telescopes or satellites sent by NASA and other space agencies. And there has been some understanding or proposals like how to explain this CME. So it is like the explosive CME generally begin when highly twisted magnetic field structures, or we call them flux ropes, contained in the sun's lower corona, become too stressed and realign into a less tense configuration, a process called magnetic reconnection. Okay, so it's just like, like you have low pressure. So at a place you have no air, and then from everywhere air comes, and they make twisting. This people call it typhoon, we call it cyclone, and so on. So in a similar language, not exactly same, the process in the sun, what we call magnetic reconnection, is different, but there is definitely different areas in the sun's corona where you have the magnetic field structures in a twisted way, and some place they're not so twisted. So there is kind of some computation happens, and this leads to this release of coronal mass ejection. So the first CME event was observed by the Deep Space Climate Observatory, or it is called DISCOVER satellite sent by NASA, and that DISCOVER satellite was launched in 2015. The next point, which is solar winds, because you must have heard all this in recent days in TV or newspaper about the objective of Aditya, and one of them is solar wind. So let's first find out what is the solar wind, and this was actually predicted first by Dr. Eugene Parker in 1950. Okay, I think he was working at the University of Chicago, a great scientist who predicted that solar winds exist. And what are solar winds? So solar wind is a continual stream of protons and electrons from the sun's outermost atmosphere, the corona. We have seen the corona is very far away from the sun's surface, but corona is very hot compared to the sun surface. So it's a mystery. And now what happens, these highly energetic protons and electrons from corona, they get ejected and they really flow like a wind, and that we call as solar wind. And this solar wind can actually travel. They can have a velocity about 400 kilometers per second, even it can be 800 kilometers per second. So now the point is, when all these charged particles come close to us, they will affect our life definitely. And if we can understand these solar winds, then we understand how to, or we can take necessary precautions how to protect ourselves from these solar winds. Because sun is good and bad. Now we are talking about how to avoid the bad part. Okay. Now the solar wind, when it spreads all over the solar system, it can even go 3 times the distance to Pluto. Okay. So just imagine sun is at the center, then you have different planets, and Pluto is the end. So whatever the distance, let's call it x. In principle, the solar wind can travel 3 times x distance. Okay. So it is a huge. It's almost that. You can imagine in space how much area they can spread. So this is actually quite significant. And if you see, this is a photo taken or simulated picture taken by NASA. So where we have the sun, and here we have the Earth, very little Earth, but we have these magnetic fields, and we have the atmosphere, the plasmosphere, magnetosphere, and so on. And you see how this is the heliosphere, and it spreads. The solar wind gets ejected and it spreads and spreads, and it can interfere with the objects in Earth. Now there has been several missions to understand the solar wind, the CME processes, and the other wavelengths coming out of the sun and stuff like that by various observatory. Aditya L1 is definitely not the first one. There has been this Parker solar probe. Then definite like European Space Agency, they have also put some observatory, and Japanese Space Agency JAXA has put. There have been about 22 exploratory missions in the solar space, and most of them have been quite successful. But among all, I think the Parker solar probe has been the most significant one, and I like to spend a minute on this because you must understand what is this. Parker. Okay, it was sent by NASA in 2018, so about 5 years back. And this solar probe, the ultimate aim is to touch the surface of sun. So the point is, it will rotate, or it will revolve around the sun in different orbits, and it will slowly become closer and closer, and finally it will almost go inside the sun, and it will be lost. Okay, it will go inside, because you cannot survive this temperature. Now, how you must be surprised that how it will survive even when it goes to closure. Forget about going inside. Even closure, it is already several thousand degrees centigrade. The point is that the technology has been so great, they have put like a mirror in front. So all the heat which comes, it almost gets reflected. So all the machinery is like behind the probe, and it always moves facing the sun with this mirror. Okay, so there are several experiments, and recently last year I think it touched the outer surface of sun just around corona, and this was the record for any human-made spacecraft to go so close to sun. Okay, and Parker moves nowadays very fast. It is about 700,000 kilometers per hour. Okay. This is incredible. As I said, this device can itself now, it is moving so fast around sun that it can take few seconds from Bhubaneswar to Delhi or any big city. So that much speed. Okay. Now, when we know that all these countries or the several countries have made so many nice spacecrafts and observatory about sun, why Aditya? And what is so special about Aditya? First of all, we must understand we have to start. When we started any space mission, we started with small satellites. Now, after several decades, now we have managed to land on moon, and now we are very proud that we can even land on the south pole of the moon. Okay, so we made a record. So similarly, on sun's exploratory, we are just starting, but unless you start, you cannot really go ahead and you cannot make any unique meson. There are already some uniqueness of Aditya L1, but most importantly, I would say that it is a very proud moment for us that we are even daring to travel 15 lakh kilometers, because the distance between Earth to Moon is about 4 lakhs. So that is the maximum distance India has ever traveled in space. Now we are dreaming to travel 4 times more, and this is incredible. And 4 times sounds maybe small, but it is incredible amount of distance which we are going to travel in a period of 4 months. Now, that's actually the biggest thing. And obviously, there are some experiments planned in Aditya L1 which will give us new information. But the most important thing we must all understand is that we are dreaming to fly high and to travel long distance, which we never imagined in our past. Now, why the name L1? Because this is the Lagrange point, and this is very, very important, which is about 1.5 kilometer. Let me just explain you. I think Aditya L1, okay, let me come to the Aditya L1 and the L1 point. These Lagrange points are named after this Italian-French mathematician Joseph Louis Lagrange, I think in 19th century, 1880 or something like that. So, if you take a two-body problem, if there are some students who are in high school or college, so if you take two masses, then you have gravitational forces between them. And the G is the gravitational force, and M1, M2, let's say masses, and the distance between them is R. It's usually M1, M2 into G. Now, there is a sun here, which has its gravitational force, because of which sun is evolving. But we must not also forget that Earth has a gravitational force, because of which Moon is evolving around Earth, and Moon also has its own gravitational force. So if you consider any two objects, now there will be a point between, let's say we have another Earth here. Forget about this sun. We have exactly an object which is similar to Earth, and the gravitational force of this object is exactly same as Earth. Then we don't need to be physicists. We don't need to be scientists. We can logically say if two people are having same force and they want to, pull each other, the middle point will be basically the place where the force will be balanced and nobody will move to anywhere. So if you put anybody there in the middle, it will just stay without any problems. If you put closer to sun, then sun will pull it. If you pull something closer to Earth, Earth will pull it. But there are places where these two competing forces are equal and opposite in nature, and they can balance. And then if you put some spacecraft you put, then they will just stay there without much problems, and you don't need much fuel to keep it flying. Now that is all about the Lagrange points. And interestingly, if you take two such objects, because sun has a much stronger gravitational force, it is very far away from Earth, and Earth has also some gravitational force. If you do this solution, this needs a little bit of physics and some equations, which I don't do it here. Then you find there are 5 such points which are called as L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5, where the force of Earth and sun balance. Now, the closest points are L1 and L2, which is almost equal distance, about 15 lakh kilometers from Earth's surface, where we have to remember it's about 150 crore kilometers from so 150 kilometers. This is just this is not properly scaled. This is like just 1% distance of the sun and Earth distance. But if you put something at L1, then the forces are balanced. The spacecraft will stay. Similarly for L2, but the beauty of L2 is behind the Earth. So this is like a dark point. So whatever you put here, then it will be always in dark. That means in a way it's bad, but in a way it's good, because you can take nice pictures of the other side of the Earth. So all these beautiful photos which James Webb Telescope has sent, it basically James Webb Telescope revolves around L2, and all these sun's exploratory missions, they put it L1 because L1 is closest to Earth. Now L3, which is another point, but it is behind the sun, we cannot reach there. It's very, very difficult. Even L4 and L5 are also similar points. So and please remember that L1, L2, and L3 are a little bit called unstable, metastable points. because it is like a ball on top of a hill. So if you put a ball on a hill, then the ball will move. So it moves a little bit. So best is the ball is little bit vibrating. So what we can do, like shown here, this satellite is moving around a vertical orbit. We can also do the same technology here, and we can put our satellites there. But then it doesn't need lot of fuel to rotate. It can just survive because of this balancing forces between the sun and the earth. That's the this is the photo I was talking. There are so many photos with the James Webb telescope, which is here at L2 point. It actually takes the camera. You know, when you're taking a photo from your mobile phone, if your mobile is facing the light, then you cannot take a good photo. But if your mobile is facing backside of a light, that means what you are taking a photo of your friend and the light is facing your friend, you get a nice photo. So that's basically the idea. We are getting beautiful photos of the terrestrial bodies which are in our universe. Okay. Now,
sir, can you just repeat L1 and L2?
Yeah.
Yes.
So see, L1 and L2 at the points at which all the L1 to L5, all these points,
again. But
L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, ये जो पांचटी पॉइंट आपण सब पॉइंट रे हमर जो माध्याकर्षण शक्ति अछि सेटा परस्पर को कैंसिल करूछ कारण सूर्य रो गोटे माध्याकर्षण शक्ति अछि अर्थ रे गोटे माध्याकर्षण शक्ति अछि किंतु सूर्य रो बहुत स्ट्रांग हैला कि किंतु अर्थ रो भी अछि
स्ट्रांग
एते स्ट्रांग में किंतु डेफिनेटली स्ट्रांग तेनु आपण भाबो दी जण जदी समान भाबरे दी जण माध्याकर्षण समान ही तांदा ताले हमहु पूरा मझिया मझ जीवा पड़ी थांदा जोटी कि फोर्स टा बैलेंस ही थांदा किंतु जेहेतु सन टा बहुत दूरे रे अछि किंतु सन माध्याकर्षण शक्ति बहुत अधिक स्टिल आमे मात्र 1% डिस्टेंस जाउचे अर्थ रु तेनु सेही जगह रे हमर कोन हो ना अर्थ हाउ सन माध्याकर्षण शक्ति टा परस्पर को कैंसिल करछ बा बैलेंस करछ तेनु से जगह रे हम भाबन गोटे पत्थर आमे थोई दबा से पत्थर टा भासीबो
हां एक्जेक्टली
हां तेनु किंतु L1 L2 L3 टिके सो कॉल्ड मेटास्टेबल पॉइंट्स तेनु पूरा सेठी रखिले रहिबनी तको हमें ता चारि पटे गोटे हालो ऑर्बिट ता कहंदी जेमि वर्टिकल ऑर्बिट कोन भाबंतु पृथ्वी एमिति बुलुची किंतु एई जो हालो ऑर्बिट एटा उल्टा पड़ता ता वर्टिकल एमिति बुझले तेनु सेमति हमर सैटेलाइट बुले आदित्य L1 भी गले ए जो L1 पॉइंट को गला परे से भी एई भली गोटे वर्टिकल हालो ऑर्बिट रे बुले
वर्टिकल ले बुलिबो
किंतु से जो बुलिबो ता पई बेसी हमको फ्यूल दरकार नै हमें बहुत मिनिमल फ्यूल ले हमें चलिबो देखंतु चंद्रयान गला चंद्र को सेठी मात्र 14 दिन रहिला तापर आ एनर्जी नै अब संधार हे जाउची हमें बहुत कष्ट जाई सेठी पहुंचले किंतु हमें तार 4 गुना डिस्टेंस जाई कि हमें प्लान करूचे जदी हमें सक्सेसफुल हेले आ भगवान करन हमें हो ताले सेही जगह रे हमें 5 वर्ष एक्सपेरिमेंट करिबा केमे 5 वर्ष एक्सपेरिमेंट करिबा अच्छा आ गोटे बहुत इंपोर्टेंट कथा जेतो आपण पछारले हमें केबे भाबिबानी जे L1 पॉइंट फिक्स बेल कारण सूर्य चारि पटे पृथ्वी सब बेले बुलुची ये जो L1 पॉइंट भी सब बेले बुलिबो स्पेस रे ओके तेनु से जो बुलिबो से बुलिला बेलको आमे किंतु हम जो स्पेस क्राफ्ट को सब बेले कम एनर्जी रे ए कम फ्यूल हम द रखे आई थिंक क्लियर हला बोधे
बढ़िया लागला बहुत सुंदर
आगे
हमर इकोनॉमिक्स रे अछि लाग्रांजियन पॉइंट गोटे जेतरे हमें लाग्रांजियन गोटे मल्टीप्लायर भाबरे व्यवहार करू अच्छा that equation is also you are also using that one
Achha.
I know that
okay then so whatever I was telling it is written here basically the point is you don't need much energy and Lagrangian point 1 is one of the closest point to sun and the most important thing which I forgot I'm sorry for that is if you put anything here then it will always look the sun there will be no solar eclipse there will be no problem every day 24/7 365 days a year you will be watching the sun okay similarly if you put anything in L2 365 days a year 24/7 a day it will be always in dark so if you want to avoid sun's light best you go to L2 which James Webb Space Telescope is doing if you want to study the sun you want to see what are the things happening to sun best is to put next to L1 L4 and L5 are the stable points beautiful but they are much farther away from earth so I think it will take much energy much fuel to go there so basically if you want to study sun so why not just put at L1 why to go further distance that's the whole idea now I think this is more or less fine. The challenges we must understand in launching the mission, and the mission is not complete because mission just started. We have just, ejected the satellite. Now it is maneuvering around the Earth, and after some time it will finally travel to the L1 point, and then we have to also use some technology to make some brakes. So we have to apply a thrust. Otherwise, this Aditya L1 will just go and maybe merge in sun, or maybe lost in the interstellar space. It will just go somewhere. So around that L1 point, we have to use proper technology, proper brakes, basically, so that we can revert. So there are a lot of actually challenges in this, and particularly we have put a lot of payloads or experiments in these satellites or these Aditya L1, which have to actually survive a lot of atmospheric conditions. So when it's traveling 15 lakh kilometers. So this is also some challenges. Now, what are the milestones of Aditya L1? You can say 4 major milestones, but there are other milestones which can come, like Chandrayaan has discovered sulfur. It was not in the plan that we wanted to discover sulfur. Sulfur just came as a bonus. But it's good to know because sulfur is very, very important for life existence, because there are a lot of proteins, amino acids, they are made of sulfur. So when we know that sulfur is in the surface of moon, it's a good information that maybe in future, you never know if water is there, sulfur is there, we may find a way to survive life in moon. So similarly, there are always good surprises, but the primary objectives of Aditya is fourfold. First is to learn about this coronal heating and solar wind acceleration. This is one of the primary objectives, I would say, where I hope Aditya L1 will contribute significantly in the science, space science, not only to Indian scientists, but all over the world. Then coupling and dynamics of the solar atmosphere, how the solar atmosphere changes with time, can we predict it, can we understand it? Solar wind distribution and temperature anisotropy. So the temperature is not fixed at one point and around the solar atmosphere. So it is changing. So is there an anisotropy? Is there a directional aspect related to temperature? Then initiation of coronal mass ejection, flares and near Earth space weather, which is also one of the major objectives. Now, as I said, there have been several missions, there have been several observatories by NASA, then European Space Agency, JAXA, and so on. So what is so special about Aditya L1? Because Parker has gone much beyond L1. It is now going closer and closer to Sun. So, and it has actually provided a lot of important information. So what is the uniqueness? First uniqueness, I would say, what is most important for being an Indian is that India is making our own solar mission. That's the first step. We have to start always with a baby step. Then only we can run, then we can play a football match or whatsoever. So unless we put that baby step, we cannot walk, we cannot run. So that is the most important uniqueness of this Aditya L1 mission. But obviously there are other unique scientific features which will be interesting outside Indian people, which is first time specially resolved solar disk in the near ultraviolet band. Please note that from the solar surface, different type of wavelengths come out. Ultraviolet light is one of them, and we hope we'll understand. Then I have already mentioned about the CME dynamics, that also we'll understand. Then we will detect the CME particles and so on, and we'll understand how they come and what are the energy distribution, the particle ions and all that we will understand. Now, you know that it was ejected recently by the PSLV vehicle, which is one of the most trusted vehicle. Please note that, of course, PSLV is not a very powerful rocket compared to other rockets, but it is one of the most trusted vehicle, and India is using this special technology. You know, we are not directly sending anything, like Russia sends this lunar mission directly, NASA sends it directly. It consumes a lot of fuel and it is very expensive, but India uses this, you know, this orbital, multi-orbit maneuvers to go around the Paris and achieve high orbital velocity, so that we can go out of the Earth's sphere of influence, known as SOI. So it was done, and PSLV was successful in launching the satellite. This is now known. And if you look the timeline from last few days, so then this injection was successful, and it has already made 2-3 maneuvers, and even tonight around midnight it will make the 3rd maneuver, and it will go this kind of, maneuver means first orbit, then it goes to the second orbit around the perigee, then it goes to the third orbit, then fourth orbit, and finally it achieves so much of velocity that we can just, make an ejection, and then finally it will go in the journey towards the L1 point, and it has to come like this. And when it is coming, that time we need to put a brake so that it doesn't get lost, but rather it goes in the hollow orbit around the L1 point. And then it will always evolve throughout the year for next 5 years to collect data, and it will transmit to the ISRO center. And we must know that how we are going to study it, because all this data will be sent to ISRO command center. I think about 1440 images per day we will receive to ISRO, and we will analyze those images to understand the solar atmosphere, the solar sphere, and the CMEs, solar winds, and so on. Now, what are the experiments we have put in this Aditya L1? So actually, there have been about 7 experiments, and we call in situ and something for like terrestrial observation. In situ means it is inside. So it will take things and it will make an experiment and take the data and send to ISRO. And there are certain experiments which you look, you take a picture, you observe how the data is collected, and so on. Okay, these are VLC, Sweet, Solex, Helios, Aspects, Papa, Mag, and the names are listed here. So I think I have a better slide here, which is telling that we have this visible emission line coronagraph payload or experiment, and it will tell us about corona imaging and doing some spectroscopy about corona. And this payload has been made by Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bangalore. Similarly, the SUIT experiment, which is Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, it will give information about the solar photosphere and chromosphere in the narrow and broadband wavelengths. It has been done by the Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics in Pune. Similarly, the SOLEX, that is Solar Lower X-ray Spectrometer, that will give, X-ray spectrometry. It will give us, because a lot of X-rays are coming out of sun. So, and it is done by the UR Rao Satellite Center of ISRO in Bangalore. Both the things of high energy L1 orbiting X-ray reflector known as Helios. So it will be hard X-ray, because there are X-ray can be 2 types, soft X-ray, hard X-ray. Then there are 3 in situ payloads or in situ experiments. One is Aspects Aditya Solar Wind Particle Experiment. This is basically to study solar winds. The next is PAPA, which is Plasma Analyzer Package for Aditya. It is again for solar wind and the particles inside the solar wind. And the next is Advanced Triaxial High Resolution Digital Magnetometer. This is actually to measure the magnetic field, because the magnetic field is an important parameter, and these are in situ payloads. Okay. Now, I'm about to finish my talk. Yeah, please.
Bedanta sir,
Yes.
it is little bit hazy. माने देखा जाउनी टिके स्लाइड किछि स्लाइड रो रहउछि कि
मोर तो क्लियर अछि, इंटरनेट इज स्लो अछि कि
ना? अच्छा, मे बी
एबे अन्य मान को क्लियर नहीं.
Can anybody tell me, Niranjan sir, Sweetie, हमरो जो सारंकर पीपीटी रे अक्षर उडा टिके हेजी रहउछि ना?
It is clear to me, Nami.
Oh, I see. Okay. Good morning. You are from New York, I think, sir. Dilip sir. Yes, Dilip sir. Dilip ji, is it clear to you, Dilip ji? Okay.
Okay.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please continue.
So these are basically different
Madam,
loads.
namaskar. Not clearly visible.
अच्छा, ठीक है. But not
Sir,
clear.
namaskar. Sir, namaskar, madam, namaskar.
It's
Not
okay.
clearly
टिके
visible.
हाँ, clearly visible.
Sir,
हमें टिके सारी दबा.
Okay. Just 1-2 minutes से सर जो last slide.
तापरे हमें हाँ
Now,
interact.
Sir,
Aditya L1,
visible होवन बोला.
ज्योति भाई सारी आसिलानी जस्ट लास्ट टा सुनी दबा तापरे सारा एक्सप्लेन करिवे. Don't
Yes.
disturb.
Yes.
Sir,
Now,
sir, please.
yes.
Sir, please continue. Sir,
Yes.
please continue.
Okay. So Aditya L1, what will bring? You can see that mostly it has 2 points, because everybody talks about science technology. In my opinion, it has a third aspect also, which is society. Now let's talk about science and technology. See, India has indigenously developed these satellites. Of course, they have taken in the beginning some help from Russia, and some sensors came. They had also some collaboration with NASA. But most of the technology, I would say, it has been developed by India. Now, from the science perspective, because all this data, what the Aditya L1 will acquire in once it reaches L1 point, or even while traveling to L1 point, probably it will also take some images and so on. All those information which will come to India, to ISRO, I'm sure it will be disseminated, it will be shared among the science community. So the science part is not just limited to India, it is for everybody, for the betterment of the humankind. However, the technology, I'm sure other countries, they don't share their technology with others unless there is a MOU or a collaboration. Every country wants to develop their technology and wants to improve it. So I think the technology part will not be shared to others. So let's say we don't know the exact details, what is inside the this Chandrayaan or Aditya L1, because that's kind of confidential. But what information they will get, that will not be confidential, that will be shared. Now, what the society gets finally out of it, one can challenge that lots of money are being put in these kind of missions, several hundred crores of money, and sometimes, some other countries try to pull our leg, telling you don't have a toilet, you are spending money on science. I think we should condemn such statements, because investing in science makes betterment of the society. It gives, the confidence. I'm sorry, this spelling is wrong here. The society gets confidence. So we know that we can now achieve. Now, by Chandrayaan or Aditya L1, see, we have made our sensors, we have made our cameras, which will take photos in very, very absurd, very difficult environmental conditions. And it will transmit those information from lakhs and lakhs of kilometers to India. So, the technology also gets better. And those technologies not limited to space science, rather it is for everybody in our daily life. So, it is good for our economy, it is good for our education system, it is good for our science. So this way, I would say this kind of missions should be strongly encouraged and India should pursue. And I'm sure Aditya L1 will be really a next leap in this space science, which is bringing confidence to India, and we can, think higher and plan even more difficult and complicated missions. So finally, I like to thank all of you for being there and listening this, and for your interest in science. And I also have to, thank all those people who contribute directly, indirectly to the growth of science and their interest. And obviously, I have taken help from different websites such as ISRO, NASA, and many other online sites. So thank you very much. And before that, I just saw the photo of the leaders of this Aditya L1 mission. This lady, who is the project director and the ISRO chairman and other directors. And we must not forget the heroes who have actually thought of science and technology and space science in Indian context. And we must remember. Thank you very much. And I like to end. Thank you very much.
Bahut sundar. First of all, I'm extending my heartfelt thanks to Professor Subhankar Vedantji. Prior to that, I'd like to request one of our friends. He joined from New York, Mr. Dilip. Mr. Dilip ji.
Yes, hi, how are you?
You can ask question, you can interact with Mr. Subhankar. Yes.
Sure. Thank you for this nice talk. I learned a lot of things here. Only problem I had was, I was driving and listening and watching, so it was a little difficult for me. So question for you is, Mr. Bedanta, is there any way we can get the slides from you?
Yeah, I can share the slides with Dr. PATTANAIK, and she can share among all.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome.
And before you left the program, I would like to share the certificates to you, and it will be virtually handed over by Professor Vedant. Just a minute, sir. Mr. Dilip.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, just a minute. This is, may I request Professor Bedanta, sir, please
Well,
virtually handed over the.
yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Please distribute to whomsoever you want. And I'm very happy to have you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And he was eagerly waiting for your program since 2 days back.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, there was some glitch.
Thanks.
No problem. Finally, we made it happen. So, thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, yes, anybody having questions? Better you unmute yourself and ask the question, and it should be relating to Aditya one. Okay? Yes, please. Sir has elaborated so nicely, so I think there will be no question at all.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I will share the slides with you, and you can share among others.
Yeah.
And well, I'm not astrophysicist. I also learned by reading and going through different sites. I've done some homework, but I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I could assemble. And if there are questions, you can ask me, and I will try to answer later on. Also, it's possible.
Yes. Sir.
I have one question which comes to my mind now is, this is called Aditya L1. So in near future, like down the road, maybe after a few years, there will be Aditya L2, L3, L4 kind of thing, or
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Please.
So
Okay.
L1, L2, L3, because usually in the spacecrafts or in different kind of projects, this 1, 2, 3, 4 tells different versions. Okay, like PSLV1, PSLV2. But here L1, L2, L3, L4 basically corresponds to those Lagrange points.
Yes.
I think it will be all, at least for India, for some time, we will stick to L1 point, because that is the place where you can do most of the things. We could go to L2 because India has never gone to L2. It's just exactly 15 lakh kilometers on the other side of the Earth. But that's the dark side.
Hardest part. Yeah.
And if we go there, we will be competing with James Webb Telescope, which is now leading the activities there. And it is sharing all those images. But we can also go there. So maybe you are right. We can think of going to L2. But I think L3, L4, L5, NASA has not thought about. Because it is not necessary to go to so far to see sun, which you can do just at L1 or L1 particularly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more question regarding PSLV C57. You told that it is trusted, and there are so many spacecraft. So, do you think in which way it is trusted? I just want to know.
You see, trusted means it is basically the percentage rate of success.
Oh.
So I think ISRO had evolved. We all know that ISRO started launching satellites which were carried in a bullock cart or cycle and all that.
Yeah.
Our history is like that. Now we are launching satellites for others. Now, in satellite launching, the launching vehicles are very, very important. PSLV, GSLV, these are satellite launching vehicles.
Yes.
And I think PSLV is not the strongest launching vehicle. But I think if you look the statistics, PSLV is one of the most successful launching vehicle. That way we say, it's not me said, it's ISRO says, all over India people say that PSLV is the most trusted vehicle. That means if you send it, at least while sending there would be no problem. Okay. Later on, that's a different thing. But launching vehicle does its job. So that way I say that it was done with PSLV because ISRO didn't want to take a risk,
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. And one of the person raised your hands. That is, I could not able to see here. Okay. Now, Harendra. Yes. Harendra Singh sir, your message will be carried forward. That is very informative and knowledgeable and excellent session. Okay. It's for sir. Yes. Sunita ji also wrote like that. It's from Jharkhand. Okay. I know everybody was very highly praising the things in the chat box. We'll read out all these things because it will be with us in the recording part. Now it's time to say bye to all the friends. Prior to that, I'll request one of my youngest boy, Dibyanshu. Let's pray for all of us. Santi part and all the sloka which you have not done, and last part we'll do it. Dibyanshu, are you there? Jarsuguda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Unmute yourself. We want to see you.
नमस्कार मैम ମୁଁ ଦିବ୍ୟାଂଶୁ ପାଢୀ ଡିଏଭି ପବ୍ଲିକ ସ୍କୁଲ ବନବାଲରେ ପଢେ ମୁଁ ଆଜି ଶ୍ଲୋକ ଆବୃତ୍ତି କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଯାଉଛି ଓମ୍ ବକ୍ରତୁଣ୍ଡ ମହାକାୟ ସୂର୍ଯ୍ୟକୋଟି ସମପ୍ରଭା ନିର୍ବିଘ୍नं କୁରୁ ମେ ଦେବ ସର୍ବକାର୍ୟେଷୁ ସର୍ବଦା ଓମ୍ କଦାଚିତ୍ କାଳିନ୍ଦୀ ତଟ ବିପିନ ସଙ୍ଗୀତ କରଭୋ नारी वदन कमला स्वादमधुपः रमा शम्भु ब्रह्मा मरपति गणेशार्चित पदो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे मुझे सबे वेणु शिरसि शिखिपिञ्छं कटितटे दुकूलं नेत्रान्ते सहचर कटाक्षं विदधते सदा श्रीमद्वृन्दावन वसति लीला परिचयो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे महाम्बोधेस्थिरे कनकरुचिरे नीलशिखरे वसन् प्रासादन्त सहज बलभद्रेण बलिना सुभद्रा मध्यस्थः सकलसुरसे भावशरदो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु. Thank you.
And you have any message? Do you have any message for us? Okay.
All the best for the Aditya L1 mission, and if it goes well, it will be very grateful.
Okay. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to present a small memento to our guest speaker for his excellent presentation. And we are really thankful to you, sir, Professor Subhankar Bedanta, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So nice of you. And I would like to present one certificate to a girls participant. She is Suchilagna Sahu, one of the teacher from Puri. She'll be very happy because they have joined this program very sincerely and honestly. And I now request to present this certificate to the teacher, Suchilagna Sahu from Puri, sir.
Yes.
Yes, Suchi, this is for you. Suchilagna, you can unmute your video. If it is possible for you to unmute your video.
No, ma'am, I'm outside.
Okay, then fine. Thank you, sir. Now it's time not only to say bye, but to extend our heartfelt thanks. So, organizational vote of thanks from our side, from the webinar team, the science teacher, senior science teacher from Puri, Mr. Jyoti Prakash MAHARANA, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, madam.
Okay, thank you.
Namaskar, madam. Namaskar, sir. Honorable President of this webinar, Mrs. MANJU PATTANAIK, respected Dr. Kaliprasad Mishra, Chief Patron, respected Dr. Subhankar Bedanta, Professor in Physics and Chief Coordinator of Center for Interdisciplinary Sciences, NISER, Bhubaneswar, respected Dr. Namita Pattanaik, host and convener of this webinar, and all teachers, all students, and all members of Odisha and out of Odisha present in this webinar, and members from abroad also. Good evening, all of you. We have already succeeded in Mars mission and Moon mission, and are going ahead on Sun mission now, which make us proud and which is the great historical achievement of our country. So now I am very proud to be an Indian. In this occasion, I would like to thank our Chief Speaker, Subhankar sir, for his wonderful and informative session. He gave us detailed information about Aditya L1. As a science teacher, I learned so many things which will be helpful for teaching to my students. Really, sir. And thanks to Dibyanshu for Ayojam Bedford. And special thanks to our brother, Mr. Dilip from New York, Jaju Singh from Pune, Dr. Harendra Singh from MP, Dr. Priyambada Samal from Chhattisgarh, Mr. Licha, Mustafa, and Vijay, and all members present in this webinar. Special thanks goes to Dr. Namita madam for arranging such an interesting webinar.
Acha, Priyambada madam is there. Dr. Priyambada Samal, she is the teacher. Yes. Yes. I forgot when she said about your name. No, I just recollect. Okay. The last portion of this webinar will retain with a song. Dr. Priyambada Samal from Jharkhand, the teacher from Jawahar school. I mean, Navodaya Vidyalaya. Okay. Just a minute. You can complete your vote of thanks. Yes, I'm sorry.
And a heartfelt thanks to all members present in this webinar, for whom this webinar had become successful and popular. So I request Subhankar sir to give such type of innovative and informative session regarding new mission as we need in future. So many thanks to all of you.
You can call upon him. Jyoti sir, you can call upon him in offline program for your Puri District Science Association. Okay.
Sure, madam.
Yeah,
Sure, madam.
Yeah. We'll have one program. So now I'll request Dr. Priyambada Samal ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar. Jai Hind. Jai Jagannath.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jyoti bhaiya. Dr. Priyambada Samal, please.
Namaskar, madam. Om Java Kushuma Sankasam Kashyapeyam Mahadruti Hantaring Sarvaparapagram Divakaram. Actually, जो सभा अनुष्ठित ହେଇଛି विज्ञान विषୟରେ
मैडम साउंड प्रॉब्लम होउची आपण फोन टाको टिके पाखु नै आसंतु
जी
हाँ घरे किछि इलेक्ट्रॉनिक गैजेट किछि ऑन अछि त ऑफ कर दियंतु बेटर लागियो
हेलो मैडम
हाँ
ऑडियो ठीक अछि तो ये जो साइंस प्रोग्राम रे कविता पाठ टिके
बढ़िया
अलगा लागले भी मोर तो मु टिके स्वर माने छंदयुक्त कविता लिखे तो मु चेष्टा करिछि हमरो प्रोफेसर जे थिले शुभंकर वेदांत सर नाजरू तो बहुत सुंदर भाव रे एकदम क्लियरली सब बुझाई देले तो मु टिके खाली ओडिया रे गोटे कविता लिखिछि आदित्य एलवान मु छत्तीसगढ़ डॉक्टर प्रियंबदा सामल कहूछि
यस
चंद्रायन 3 रो सफलता पारे आदित्य एलवान उत्क्षेपण श्रीहरिकोटा स्पेस सेंटर रो 2 सेप्टेम्बर सूर्य अभियान लक्ष्य स्थले पहुंचीब आदित्य एलवान 120 दिन रे 15 लाख किमी दूरता अतिक्रमे इसरो सूचना अनुसारे 16 दिन रे 5 थर प्रदक्षिण करी पृथ्वी चतुर्पार्श्वे निज कक्ष पथ प्रसारित करी अग्रगति लक्ष्य आसे 125 दिन रे पहुंची लंगराज पॉइंट रे एक हेलो ऑर्बिट रे प्रदक्षिण 5 वर्ष लगातार सूर्य संपर्कित विभिन्न तथ्य को संग्रह करिब धीरे सूर्यर विभिन्न स्तर सौर पवन आलोक रश्मि संपर्क रे सूर्यर फोटोस्फियर क्रोमोस्फियर बाह्य स्तर अनुध्यान सौर झड़ चुंबकीय क्षेत्र तथा प्लाज्मा संपर्कीय ज्ञान 7टी पेलोड यंत्र खंड अछि आदित्य L1 सहित रे प्रथम स्पेस ऑब्जर्वेटरी भारतर PLSV C57 रॉकेट सहायतार पृथ्वी सहित चंद्र फोटो उठाई आदित्य L1 यंत्र पृथ्वी ठारू 15 मिलियन दूरे रही सेल्फी फोटो कला प्रेरण सतीश धवन लॉन्च पैड रु उत्क्षेपण आदित्य L1 सफलता पथे आगे चली भारतर प्रथम सौर मिशन धन्यवाद चेष्टा करथिलि बहुत विज्ञान विषय को कविता रे मुक्रिया पई जति पारिली करि पारिली और बहुत किछ रहि
Very nice, very nice.
धन्यवाद मैडम
बहुत बढ़िया लागला आपण एटा को ओटे जो मैगजीन बा न्यूज़ पेपर छपान दो आपण ओटे रिकॉर्डिंग करके भी शेयर करो दिस इज सो इन्फॉर्मेटिव ना मु जो आधा घंटा घंटा जो टॉक दिले आपण ताको 2 मिनिट रे पढी दिले
धन्यवाद
सर नमस्कार आपन सर गोटे रिक्वेस्ट अछि मोर तरफ सर
आज्ञा
सर मु जतवर समाना साइंस टीचर फ्रॉम पुरी ओडिशा सर
आज्ञा
सर हमर गोटे विज्ञान परिषद अछि सर डिस्ट्रिक्ट विज्ञान परिषद
आज्ञा
सर जदि इन फ्यूचर रे हमें टिके आपन खोजिबो गोटे वेबिनार करिया पई टिके हमको टाइम दे प्लीज
आपण वेबिनार कहीं करिवे ऑफलाइन करंतु सार को पाखे को नहीं देखंतु खाली साइंस लोगों को आमे करूछु बिकॉज दिलीप भाई परिका लोक माने अमेरिका रु जॉइन करिवे किंतु आपण कहीं करिवे आपण पुरी रे जगन्नाथ देखिया को नियंतु
श्योर मैडम निश्चय निश्चय मु सार को कहबी पूरी मीटिंग अरेंज करियो सर निश्चय
आज्ञा
सो
थैंक यू वेरी मच
आगे
हाउ
तो
मते जिबार अछि
आज्ञा सर
मते जिबी मते भल लागला आसी की थैंक यू सो मच आ देखा हो केते बळे आ
आमे आपण सहित गोटे ग्रुप फोटो उठे की तबे सादबू
आज्ञा उठांतु
मु अनुरोध करिबी समस्त को टिके अनम्यूट करंतु वीडियो सो दैट विल हैव ए ग्रुप फोटोग्राफ्स ऑल ऑफ अस क्विकली समस्त टिके जल्दी कर दियंतु सो दैट हमें साथ जिबे हां if you are comfortable you can open your video sure no problem yes city Dibyanshu has a network problem okay right just a minute I'll finish the recording then we'll go